Hey guys, this is Modern Refugee. Hopefully you can all hear me here. Just let me know there in the chat if you can hear me. Starting a couple minutes early here, still working on the bugs of this. I literally just got home. We had another family medical emergency today, and something that we're going to discuss. Let's see here. Give everybody a few minutes to kind of get in here. Old guy, new tricks here. Let's see here. Can everybody hear me? Hey there, East Texas. Awesome. How do you from the great state of Texas? Hey there. How's the Lone Star State doing? Hey, Old Spice. Monkey Food Garden. All my loyal fans out there. I appreciate all you guys being here. You're all like my extended family. Appreciate each and every one of you guys taking time to be here with me. And I literally just got here a few minutes back and kind of got around here so I could do this for you guys. Wanted to talk a little bit about the weakness in society, at least from my point of view here. And today's perfect example. We had another medical emergency here in our family. My mother-in-law is got a lot of medical problems, and she was in the hospital a couple weeks ago, and she had to be taken in today. Again, because of basically respiratory problems. You can't live without oxygen, right? And mom is the last of the old timers. And when mom is gone, unfortunately, the term of old timers is going to pass to me. But mom and we have been in this situation so many times. Hey there, John. We've been in this situation so many times, we have kind of hardened ourselves and gotten to the point where we've got our preparedness for this type of thing sort of in place. And if you are not prepared in your preparedness for a medical emergency, you need to do that. You need to have some plan when that call comes. I was at work today. I literally worked 45 minutes. And it is a badge of courage to be called an old timer. I literally worked for 45 minutes. The call came, hey, we got to take mom in by, fingers are turning blue, her lips are turning blue, she's got a really erratic heartbeat, erratic blood pressure. Another perfect example to have a blood pressure cuff at home in your preps. Blood pressure can tell a lot on a person's health if you know what you're looking for. So a blood pressure cuff is something worth having. So the call came at a moment's notice. And that to me is a true SHTF, not something you're expecting or you're planning. Hey, there's a snowstorm coming. We got to get ready for a snowstorm. We got to get snowed in for a couple of days. When that call comes, hey, something's going wrong right now and you have to react to it. And I've had people, there have been times when I couldn't even like grab a pack or any gear or nothing when the call came. I had to go right then and there. There was no time. There was no time to grab anything, to come up with a plan. You had to formulate on your own. And this gets into the mindset of society nowadays. Society is weak. There's weakness in society. They don't know how to react. They're panicky. I don't know how many times I have loaned stuff out to people who are in a bad situation. And, age isn't a limitation to this. I know a personal friend of mine's daughter who is, very healthy and in her, mid part of her life got into an accident, collapsed lung, couple of broken ribs. So that medical emergency can happen at any time. And that gets to, where we are out here in the rural areas. Medical treatment is better than it used to be slightly, but not much. If you live in a rural area, you have to plan for some type of medical problem because just like the old timers always told me, yeah, we got a hospital around here, but that hospital is a first aid station. And that is basically what it is. Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely have your first aid kit in place, know your herbal substitutes, know what the local remedies are, because not all the same plants and vegetation and stuff and people in the same areas have access to the same home remedies. I actually know quite a few home remedies that are in my area. Like there's one particular home remedy that is the bark of northern prickly ash. Well, I'm sure northern prickly ash doesn't grow in every state in the union, but that is a plant that is used for different medicinal purposes that grows in my area. And people need to know that stuff. The old timers knew it, and the old timers always called the hospital's first aid stations around here because the first thing they did once they stabilized you is they put you on an ambulance and they shipped you out to a big city hospital. And then this gets to the mindset where some preppers have, hey, I'm never going to the big city. Well, I'm here to tell you, if you have a heart attack, something happens, the first thing they're going to do is take you to the closest hospital, which out here in the rural areas are the first aid station hospitals. They're going to stabilize you, get a little documentation down on what's wrong with you. They're going to put you in an ambulance and they're going to ship you down to Detroit, Flint, Saginaw, whatever. And that is basically what it is. And then you got people that don't want to go to the city, are pulled out of their environment, pulled out of their rural area, and they have to go to the city. And a lot of people aren't prepared for that. And me, I'm a country boy. I would just as soon be in the woods, be on the farms, whatever, but I still have catered my gear and stuff to urban environments if that happens. And again, some cash for an urban environment, some cash, have some clothes with you, sweatshirts, some heavier clothes, because sometimes those hospitals can be cold. Make sure you have devices to charge yourself, and triple redundancy. I have loaned out so much charging stuff out of my packs in all my different vehicles and stuff. I went in my pack today and I forgot to put my charging stuff back into my pack. But I also carry charging stuff in my pickup truck. So I had that triple redundancy. Instead, I gave away the stuff that I had on me. I gave away the stuff in my pack to help people out. Now I'm kind of running low here. Oh, I still got the stuff in my truck because I got triple redundancy in the stuff that is most important. And until the EMP hits or whatever, our mobile devices are our lifeline in a lot of situations, and that's why we got to keep them fired up to date, and ready to go. Let's check what's going on here in the chat. Oh yeah, I know that phone changes words all the time. I run into that same problems. Roberta, I appreciate you being here. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure people in Texas, the ones from the Lone Star State that are in here, got different home remedies than what we got here. Medical is extremely weakness. The medical system is dependent on technology. Even though most hospitals have generators, a lot of that stuff would only last a certain period of time. And hospitals, big city hospitals, are like demilitarized zones. You got to walk through metal detectors. They search you. When mom was in the hospital today, there was literally a couple of shooting victims that were brought in when I was sitting in there with mom a couple of doors down. Armed police all over, only a couple entrances in and out. Every single bed in the emergency room, and this is a big hospital, was full on a Sunday afternoon in August. That is, just the way it goes. Keep chargers for the phone and all my pack scars. Yep, Monkey Food Garden. That is exactly what everybody needs to have, multiple ones. Hospitals are in the worst part of town. That's right, Brad. You know it. You know it. It is a proven fact. And now this gets into another thing. Another thing that I've seen, I've been in this preparedness game a long time, and you always hear people say, get out of the cities, whatever. And people will have fancy vehicles. They might even have a camper. Or if something bad happens, I'm going to get on the road and I'm going to get out of town. I'm here to tell you from my own personal experience, unless you got some type of heads up and you're out of town 3 days before everybody else gets the heads up, you're probably not going to get out of town. When Dad was in the hospital last year, my father-in-law, who passed away last year, same thing. He had a problem, took him into the ambulance, took him to the nearest first aid station rural hospital. Once they figured out what was wrong with him, they put him on an ambulance and they sent him down to Detroit. There he was in Detroit. And again, I had very little time to prepare for that. I heard about it. I got there and they said, we're transferring him. Literally, I didn't even have enough time to get a cup of coffee out of a vending machine. I was in a vehicle, following an ambulance right down into the worst neighborhood possible. This is a very common scenario that people are just not um, just don't think about. And I've commented that on other larger preparedness channels, and I've had some people even come back and say to me, yeah, that's something that people just don't talk about is, what if some medical thing happens and you have to be hospitalized? That's why we've got, basically medical bug out bags. What happens if I end up in the hospital for a couple of days? Just like happened to me a couple of years ago, just like that happened to my wife, and now it's going on with my mother, but those mother-in-law. But you might, because of certain circumstances, find yourself in that city, and that gets to the getting out of the city. One of those days that we went down there when Dad was down in Detroit, a small ice storm moved through, and there was an eighth of an inch of ice. It was about a 130-mile trip. There was a small section, about 10, 12 miles, where an ice storm had went through. It shut down the road going in and out of that urban area for at least 4 hours. Basically, you couldn't get through that. It was at least a 4-5 hour delay to get through that. As the day got warmer, they had a chance to salt, open the roads back up. There were fender benders all over the place. People forget how to drive every year in the wintertime. That was a perfect example. If there would have been some emergency at that particular time when that road was shut down from that ice storm, you wouldn't have got out. And that's just the way that it is. And the supplies, all the stuff that comes in, things are imported. You hear it all the time. All the medicine is brought in from other countries for the different medications that they put together. All the primary ingredients, whatever, that's all imported. It's absolutely crazy, but that is how the the medical system is. It's weak, and you need to prepare for if somebody gets hurt or something. You need to have stuff in your first aid kit to stabilize people. You need to have communication devices to get the ambulance there, and you need to be prepared for those folks, whatever it is, whether it's a severe illness or it's an injury. You need to be prepared to go to multiple different hospitals if that's possible, which means you need to have some cash on you. The gas tank in your car might be full, and these things can happen, on any given time. I know somebody that I worked with here recently, a couple years back. He's seen some of the things in my truck in my first aid kit. He goes, "Man, you got tourniquets in here." He said, "That's not a bad idea." And I said, "Well, why you say that?" It seemed like something odd that he came up, and he said, "Well, year ago, me and my grandfather were cutting down a tree. Tree spun on the stump, fell on him. I didn't even see it happen because I was pulling something with a four-wheeler out of the way, fell on him, broke his femur." He said, "I wish I would have had a tourniquet." They patched him up the best they could, and they got the ambulance out there, and because he had a charged cell phone, so there was multiple things there. But he said, from now on, we're cutting wood, whatever, for the rest of my life, I'm going to have first aid stuff with me, because he had kind of learned his lesson. So that is the perfect example. Old Hands Wilderness, new creator here. I've been following you for a while from my personal account. Love your content. Great work. I appreciate you, Old Hands. There. I hope you have much success there in your channel. Feeder Monkey, getting an extra phone charger this week. Just ordered it. Yep. And then cords too. The charging cords. There were times I can think back when my children were in school, which was several years ago now. They're all adults now, where they had some type of violence that took place locally, and they locked the school down. Most of the kids' phones were dead, so they couldn't even contact their mother. There was a lot of panicked parents out there. My children, fortunately, had cell phone chargers that they loaned out to other kids, so they could at least charge up their phone enough so they could text their parents, say, "Hey, Mom, I'm okay." Do not, I know there's all kinds of people that sell stuff online and whatever in the prepping channels and sell you this and sell you that, whatever. But I'm here to tell you, those small things like that could mean a world of difference, not just for peace of mind, but for safety. Hey there, Melissa. How you doing? Oh, we got here. Mindy Mouser, new to your channel, and I love it. One thing I've done for the preparedness is canned filtered water. Oh, you know what? There's a lot of people, there's a lot of people that'll say we will never have a empty canned jar in our house. If there's a jar that's empty, if the worst comes to worst, we'll put water in it and we'll can the water. So at least we've got pure sterile water there for drinking, using, cooking, whatever. Um, so medical, I feel the medical system is extremely fragile and it runs on that same just-in-time delivery system. There's so many people that are involved with it. The people that get up and go to work every day in a hospital just are, I don't know how they do it, to see that day in and then day out. And then if something happens, they can't get to work because, it's a snowstorm or whatever. There's less people that are there. And we're not even talking about, what would happen if there'd be a collapse and violence would be involved. I'm just talking about right now, every day, day-to-day things, day-to-day things. But if you live in the country, you really need to have some type of plan put together for medical. And as far as I am concerned, oh, Catherine, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate all you guys out there. I never ask you guys for anything. I feel your viewing my channel is enough for me. But I do very much appreciate it. Thank you so much. The two main SHTFs that I see on a almost daily basis or monthly basis is stuff having to do with medical, and power outages would be the next one. And power outages are something that everybody always talks about, but it's getting to the point where infrastructure is not being kept up. And out here they've got power poles out here in the country. They literally put 4 or 5 cables on it just to hold the power pole up. I've got one that's right in my front yard, basically, that has a half a dozen cables holding that pole up, because they're not going to replace the pole till it falls over. Well, when it falls over, we're obviously going to lose power here, because that's one of the lines that bring the electricity into our house. So anymore, people need to have some type of plan for a power outage, even if it's a power battery bank. Like these guys here, you got a bunch of these around to keep your personal devices up. You got a small power bank to keep some type of other essential thing up and running. That is something that everybody needs to prepare for. And it is another weakness in our society. Out here we have these big substations and stuff. None of this stuff is guarded. You're lucky if a either a state trooper or a county sheriff deputy drives down that road maybe once a weekend. And we're talking big places that, maybe there's cameras and stuff in there. And sometimes they have cameras and closed circuit TVs that are monitored at an off-site location. But then those people still have to get a hold of somebody. Hey, there's somebody monkeying around with substation 103 or whatever that it is. Those are still problems. And then when you lead into the whole power outage things, now I'm going to talk about agriculture, which is where we live here. There's no doctor and dentist still. There is a book, I have never read that one, where doctors and dentists are still relevant. Let me see here if I got that. What is it? Got it over there in my one of the best medical books that I have that I can recommend. In fact, let me just pop over here for a second and I'll just show it to you guys. Let you guys know that I'm legit here when I talk about this stuff. This is my favorite, I guess, medical preparedness book. Oh, bad. There we go. Field Guide to Wilderness Medicine. This has a little bit of everything in it, and I highly recommend that book as a guide. I've got a copy of that here, and then to go along with this guide, they use a lot of medical terms in this guide. I think I paid like $5 for it online. I got a medical dictionary that all the big medical words, it tells me what those big medical words in this book mean. So the two basically go together. But talking about the power outages, we live in a highly agricultural area. If the power goes out on these farms, a lot of farms have generators and stuff, but then there's other electrical components that go along with that: ventilation systems, fans, whatever, refrigeration systems. If the power goes out and there's a failure in the generators, or if they run out of fuel for those generators, you're going to have mortality in the animals almost immediately. Chickens, pork, beef steers, milking operations, that stuff is extremely vulnerable. And I believe dairy is probably the most vulnerable of any of the agricultural operations. If there's a massive power outage in a large pork operation, and there's not enough ventilation to ventilate the methane and circulate the air in there, you're going to have hogs dropping dead left and right. Um, just wanted to let you know how much I appreciate you and your family putting yourselves out there to help fellow man. Much, much appreciate. God bless. And God bless all my people that watch my channel. I just do this to help people out. I grew up in a situation where I didn't have um, a lot of people that shared what they knew with me. I had to learn kind of on my own and the questions that I ask, and I'm just trying to, help people out. Ham radio, a very good point there. I just recently here, I think it was back in December, I got a GMRS license, and I've been chatting with folks in my neighborhood here, and we've got a pretty decent communication network established just in our neighborhood here, which is basically why I wanted that GMRS license. I probably got too big an antenna on my radio because I know there's regulations for all that. But you know what? I run out my call sign every time I pop on there, and we just have chats back and forth to check our signal strength and make sure that we are have our stuff set up. We got a couple of channels that we talk back and forth on. We're not full-fledged hams or anything, but I've been very happy with that GMRS, and I can see where that would come in handy if there was such a problem. But agriculture depends on electricity. It depends on diesel fuel. It depends on chemicals. It depends on seed production. And this goes with the animals that I was talking about there. If something happens to the breeding stock of the animals, if the incubators go down for the chickens, or if the breeding stock dies for some reason in some type of SHTF event, that's going to take weeks, months to get that back up and running so they can produce something. And we're not even talking about if the farm equipment or the barns or whatever they have has been destroyed in that particular instance. So, you're looking at, if there is a severe SHTF event where the power is down, the trucks stop running, you're going to see a collapse in not only medicine and your personal electricity coming in, you're going to see a collapse in agriculture. And that does two things. Now, there's like vegetable production, and we have that around here. There's cucumbers that are produced around here for different canning operations. We have potato operations around here. We have grow stuff like onions. These kind of crops are actually grown here where we are in Michigan, and they are the food that we eat. And stuff like corn and soybeans, that stuff is 50-50. Half of it is food for the animals that we eat, the chickens, the beef, the pork. But then the other half of that is economic. If those crops and those animals fail, you're going to have farms go out of business. They've got mortgages to pay too and stuff. And now you see where it would not only affect food distribution, it's going to affect the local economy. The economy is going to collapse. They're not going to be able to produce that stuff to throw it into the food chain. And you can see where that's going to be a cascading SHTF. And I've talked about that many times. If there's one SHTF event, it's going to cascade into several SHTF events. And that is something that I don't think kind of people realize, hey, you know what, I'm preparing for this one SHTF event, but then that's going to cascade and lead into other things. And, I see it all the time. I see people that have a lot of stuff. They live the good times. They got their nice campers and nice vehicles, nice houses. They go on trips every weekend, go on big long summer vacations and whatever. I don't want to like get down on those folks, but you change your mindset after you've been through multiple SHTF events. And for me, it's been, medical events. I have I've literally watched 6 family members pass away, and I don't have a better way to put it other than that. And the first time that I ever watched a person die, I was 8 years old, and he was a friend of my grandfather. He was helping my grandfather. My grandfather had failing health. My mother was out there. They were plowing. He was working back on the plow, and all of a sudden he hollered. He was walking behind the plow, and he hollered to my mother to stop. And she stopped, looked back. She was startled. She got off there, she ran, and he had basically just fell over. He had a massive heart attack. And mom looked me right in the eye. She said, run up to the house, get grandma, and have them call the ambulance. And I did. I ran as fast as I could up to the house. I told grandma, something happened to him. And mom said, call the ambulance. Grandma called the ambulance. By the time we started walking back out, because it was quite a ways, it was probably, I'm going to say 200 yards to where this took place, to where the farmhouse was. I got there when Grandma and I got back there. The ambulance was literally driving through the field to get back to where we were at, and he had a massive, massive heart attack, and he was just gone. And that stays with you. And I've had people say, "Man, you are." Probably got a little PTSD rolling around in there from all the different, people that you've seen pass away and whatnot. And I don't know whether I do or not, but I've come to those conclusions that these things, these sudden events, these are the SHTFs that most people are going to see. Now, can there be a world war? Can there be these kind of things? Yes. But people that have lived a good life their entire life might not be mentally prepared for when these SHTF events happen. And now you're going to have people that don't know what to do. There are going to be people that are panicky. There are going to be people that'll just shut down. I've seen that too, where something bad happens, people will just shut down. And, you never know how somebody is going to react in one of those SHTF situations until they've actually been in it. And everyone is going to be just a little bit different. Sub Dog, how you doing there? Don't worry about being late, man. I appreciate you being here. Scout, how you doing? John Poole, Coney B. Bees, anaphylaxis, epinephrine packs are essential. Found out the hard way. That's true. And I actually am not allergic, but I know somebody that is extremely allergic, and he will literally drive a mile out of his way to not even be around anything like bees, or what's really bad around here is yellow jackets. And yellow jackets can basically build build a nest anywhere, even in the ground. And when they hit you hard. Great chat. Friday, I was doing some repair work in town, forgot my 20-volt batteries, had to do everything with the old school. Oh, yeah. When I was younger, we did roofs, and I did everything with a regular hammer. Now they got it a little bit easy with all their hand machines. Hey there, all 11 kitties. Hey, MR, how are you doing? I'm a firm believer in Black Swan. Normies to the floor. It's like I said, there's a lot of people out there that have never been in that type of event, and that gets into the weakness in our society. Our technology and the world that we lived in, where everything's at our fingertips, kind of has made us a little bit soft, except for people that are in these kind of high stress jobs like medical, law enforcement, firefighters, and whatever. And we need to prepare for those weaknesses. We need to prepare for people shutting down. And I'm not saying, and I think a lot of people that are in the prepping game, they think they're going to be some kind of leader in whatever, SHTF event happens. I'm going to, run my compound, or I'm going to run my group, or my mag, or whatever it is. And I don't really look at myself like that. I just want to be a valuable member of my community if something takes place. So my mindset is, there's younger and better men and women out there that could lead the pack if something bad thing happens, but I want to contribute. I want to contribute in a meaningful way. I don't necessarily want to be the warlord of my particular group or whatever that it is. I just want to help people. I want to see people get through the hard times, and I particularly want to pick up the people that need a hand up. And That's just my mindset, my own personal mindset. Mag retreat, that hits me, MR. Hey, you know what? If you got good folks, and I think most people that are in preparedness, um, they do it for their family. They do it for their family first, and then extended friends and relationships and stuff like that. You might have some folks that are in in your neighborhood or whatever that you get together. But I think most people do the whole preparedness thing for their family and their immediate family, even the ones that, don't really believe in that kind of stuff. Did you say the AR roofer? Never seen that one coming. And that's another thing about agriculture, AI. We had a ice raid around here. Most of the dairy operations employ foreign nationals to do the work because so much work is needed and it's hot, dirty work, basically. And I believe that the agricultural operations that need that type of help are going to be the first ones that are going to automate. And if they automate, again, that's going to add back into the weakness. You're not going to have people there to pick up the problems. You're going to have mechanical things that are not going to work because they either don't have the diesel fuel, they don't have the electricity, whatever, in some type of event. And you already see the automation in um, the large crops and stuff, and the cash crops and stuff that are grown. The tractors get bigger and bigger. Like I said in a previous video, seen somebody spraying a cornfield with a drone, and it's going to get more and more like that. Agriculture is going to become automated, and I think it's going to be in my lifetime yet. Everyone should learn how to fix small engines, clean carburetors. That's absolutely right, Wombat. And you can start by preventing it in the first place by not using ethanol fuels. You need rec fuel or you need non-ethanol fuel whatsoever. Ethanol fuel is the bane of carburetors and small engines. So if you got a gas powered generator, you got a gas powered chainsaw, make sure that you run the best fuel in that. Feeder Monkey, I'm a former LEO, and everything you said about people not being ready is so true. The life in their phone is matrix like. Worried about a lot of people. Ability to lose. That's true. It is. It's just one of those elephants in the room. My mag is my family and my extended group sub dog. Now we have even, yeah. And you know what? If I have found that out around here. I grew a garden. I never asked my neighbors to start growing gardens. And now, they come and ask me questions. Now I've got people with gardens on either side of me, so I feel that just answering questions and, you don't have to necessarily thump your chest and say, hey, I'm a prepper, I do this, whatever, but just answering questions of people who are interested in that stuff. I'm a firm believer that inside every person, there's a prepper trying to get out. And, we all have our own past experiences. And I think people that have been through bad events are more prone to become a prepper or prepper, minded than people who haven't been in those bad situations. And again, those are the people that are always the wild cards, are the people who haven't been in those situations. They don't have the mindset. Catherine, I just came across your channel by accident, but I don't believe anything is by accident. You have been a positive influence in my life, and that's why I do it. I just do it to. I never had the upbringing that some other people had. I was always out there. I was always out doing work, learning stuff. And if something happens to me tomorrow, at least this stuff is on YouTube here, so people can know how to can stuff or know how to, how to deal with rural living or problems or whatever. And, that's basically why I do it. I want what I know not to die with me if something happens with me. Basically, that's what it is. Around here, all the farms are owned by large companies. And that's something that's coming around too. When I was a kid growing up, Sub Dog, most people around here had 80, 100-acre farms, the older folks, and as they passed away, they got folded into larger and larger operations. And what used to be every family had a farm around here, now there's maybe a dozen large farm operations here when there used to be literally hundreds. And that's because all the smaller operations have folded in on themselves. I feel like it's really important to know what is edible around you in the woods and even the lawns. Knowing what you can eat that you don't have to buy is a definite plus. And that is so true. And I pretty much know around where I live where all the fruit trees are. I've got an apple tree in my backyard. There's a pear tree down from me. My neighbor's got a tart cherry tree. I know where there's at least probably 30 different fruit trees that are growing on the side of the road somewhere on road right away. That fruit comes out every year and it falls in the ditch. Nobody pays any attention to it. And that's a good place to start right there. Just drive around, see if there's, any little brushy areas along the side of the road or whatever that don't belong to anybody or in road right away. There might be enough apples on there to cook you 10 gallons of apple butter. And people just don't look at it that way. Another thing, I know people that think that a fruit tree in their yard is just a nuisance because they got to sweep up they got to scrape up the peaches or whatever before they mow or whatever. And I see that all the time. People will just discard stuff that is perfectly good food. I remember when I was a kid, one of the local potato farms around here, we would just go out in the farmer knew when he was done harvesting the potatoes and whatever was left out in the field that fell off the harvester and never got picked or whatever, we could just go out and grab that. It wasn't a big deal. I learned from Uncle Al here on YouTube that that's called gleaning. Gleaning wheat, I guess, is, and they went back to an actual Bible verse where they were talking about gleaning wheat. But there's so much stuff like that around here that people just discard. And it's if it's happening here, it's happening everywhere. People just discard that is, good food. And when it comes to stuff, growing in your yard, things like, dandelions, things like wild raspberries, wild strawberries, these kind of things. I don't, I just know so many different things. Wild chicory growing on the side of the road. Chicory and dandelion that can be toasted and used for a coffee substitute. It's just one of those things that I heard about the old timers doing. And Dana Green, my dad pretty much had to sell his dairy farm years back. He was in Wisconsin, and that's what happens. The folks that have the smaller farms, the smaller operations, they get old. They can't do it anymore, and a lot of times that ends up in a sale. And then that gets folded into a different operation. JD Prepping, how you doing there, MR? I'm glad you're here. Dewberries, chokeberries, currants, currant bushes. I remember quite frequently around here, and currant bushes aren't really around much anymore. I don't actually know of a currant bush. Free food ditches in many waterways, and that I'm telling you, somebody 30 years ago was eating an apple through the core out their window when they were driving down the road. That sprouted into a tree, and that's making apples now. And that's just one of those things. Another thing too is I've gotten wheat for my stores here in the past where they were harvesting wheat behind my house, and I went back there and said, "Hey, you guys I'll buy a little wheat from you. I like to grind wheat and make my own flour." There were times I've done that, and they're like, "You got a bucket?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can go get a bucket." They said, "Bring me a bucket." I'll take a 5-gallon bucket. Hey, Catherine, I appreciate that. You guys don't have to. I don't want to ask for anything, but if you guys want to donate to me, I appreciate it. I always put it to a good use. I really appreciate you guys doing that. But if you got some need for it, you don't have to donate anything. I do this strictly because I want to do it and I want to help you guys out. But I've taken buckets, went to those guys and say, here's a bucket. They'll give me a bucket of wheat out of the back of the combine and say, "Here you go." Say, "You want me to pay you for something?" Nah, don't even worry about it. I mean, we spill more than this. Just take it with you. And there's just so many different ways where you can procure food. I mean, when me and my wife first got married, we had a little bit of the prepping. I had the prepping mindset, since I was a kid. We went to dented can stores and we started by, stocking up with dented cans on stuff on top of the stuff that we grew in the garden. And that was a start. The dented can stores, there were multiple ones around here. The Amish usually run some type of dented can or expired food store. And if you have any Amish in your area, that's a good thing to look. They usually don't advertise them because they kind of keep them for their own community, but they are business people and they understand the business aspect of selling things, and you can get stuff that way. But medical medical is a weakness we all need to be prepared for. Electrical failures is something that we need to really prepare for. Um, any type of any type of SHTF event that happens in an agricultural area, I always watch that. And if something doesn't look right to me or looks like there's going to be something going through the beef herd, that's something I might want to make sure that I've got some beef canned up, or I got some beef in the freezer, because the price on that might go up. Even though we have local beef and stuff here that we got access to, it still affects the broader market, and prices go up. Just like, we produce gas here in the United States, gas is produced in Canada, but if some kind of war goes on in the Middle East, it still affects prices here, and prices do nothing but go up. God, in the greenhouse, it's really is amazing, all of the food that is around us. I love all the lists that everybody's leaving. Dandelion salad. First time I ever had a dandelion salad was in Ontario. When me and my wife, we were over there, we stopped at a little restaurant that was called Ginger's, and they gave us a dandelion salad. And you know what? It was great. I still remember it to this day. That's how good it was. Good point. Greenhouse. I want just you to know that what you're doing is so very important. God bless you, my friend. God bless all you guys. I appreciate each and every one of you here. We all have a purpose for being here, and who knows, maybe this is the purpose why I'm here to, live through some of the stuff that I've lived through. Is I need to share it with you guys, so you guys can benefit from the things that I have seen. Hey, our lamb's quarter is a great one to harvest. Leaves are like spinach and the stem is like asparagus. That's something I did not know, so I appreciate you sharing that out there. The shoots on cattails are another one. They taste like cucumbers, and the actual roots of cattails are edible too. You gotta boil them kind of like a potato and peel them, but they're sort of like a starchy vegetable. Home tool rental sells their used equipment, including generators, first of the month when things go on sale, but you never know what it's going to be like. Yeah, and that's, if there's a way that you can look at the carburetor on it and make sure that the carburetor's not all gummed up, that's one of the main things. Another thing that inspect is recoil ropes. Um, I had a guy argue with me about recoil ropes. I actually did a video on recoil ropes here maybe a year ago, and said it's something that, since I've been working in a place that fixes small engines, two of the main things that people bring in small engines and equipment that are malfunctioning is carburetors and things that have been stored with ethanol fuels that have gummed up the engines so they don't run the carburetor, so it doesn't run right, and some type of problem with recoil and recoil ropes. And you can literally, for $20, you can get a couple of coils or spools of recoil rope. And I've got recoil rope here now, so if I got a broken recoil rope, and you can use regular, paracord and stuff too, but sometimes it has to be a certain diameter for it to work. And then recoil rope is generally some type of abrasion resistance, so it's basically made to, pull start stuff. But those are some things that I have learned, and spark plugs too kind of goes along with the fouling out of small engines, because I tell you what, there's a lot of preparedness problems that can be taken care of by small power equipment, things like generators and chainsaws. Everybody's your friend if you got a chainsaw after a bad thunderstorm goes through and knocks a bunch of trees down. WRTB, Scotty Anthony out of Bloomington, Indiana. Love your channel. Keep up the great work. Hey, I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys being here. God bless you and yours. Have you tried milkweed pods? Milkweed pods I haven't tried, but the actual milk out of milkweeds, Mom would actually, you put that on mosquito bites. Like if we had mosquito bites, she would make an X in the mosquito bite with her fingernail, and she would put milkweed juice on that to soothe it would soothe the itch of that. Oh, there's Mother Refugee. She's in here now. Say hi to everyone. Sorry I'm so late. Well, you're looking after Mom, Mother Refugee. You had other things that were more important on your mind. But Mother Refugee is in here. She is my backbone, my how do I want to say this? She is my camera lady. She is the voice behind the man, so to speak. And I'll tell you something, Mother Refugee, when we got married, isn't what you would call a prepper, but as time went on, she has become a prepper in her own right, but she's very practical. She's not one to worry about zombie apocalypses so much as she is actual practical day-to-day problems, like being having enough money to pay the bills, making sure that the kids were taken care of, growing up, they had here what they needed. It's a very mother refugees. The way she looks at preparedness is very family oriented, is one way, I guess, to put that. You can also eat the stems on burdock when they're still green. Look up the recipes. I will, Old Spice. That's something I can. I've heard people talk about burdock. I can't remember ever trying it, but that's something I can look up. Small cuts, yeah, small cuts, sub dog, that kind of thing. Plantain, or I call it plantain, but plantain, broadleaf plantain. There's also a narrowleaf plantain. They both work. Are probably the most medicinal plant that is out there in people's lawns and in wild places and meadows and stuff. I actually have a couple of, when I do the garden every year, there's a couple of plantains or plantains that just come up. I just let them grow because they're one of those medicinal. Um, they're one of those medicinal plants that comes in handy. And again, those small, um, those small things, those small home remedies and stuff are something that can help out a lot. To a certain extent, if something bad happens, we all have to be able to take care of ourselves for a certain period of time. And I don't expect really any help from .gov, so to speak, if something goes down. I feel if something does happen, it's going to be my local community here, my local town, small town I live in, us banding together to get through whatever it may be. But things like, the things that are weak, the medical system, agriculture, the utilities, the power grid and stuff. This is all stuff that we need to look at. If there is some type of SHTF event. And, how do you protect yourself from, an SHTF event that it would affect, mass agriculture that we're used to? Simple. Have a full pantry, have a full freezer, grow a small garden, have a small, have some buckets where you got some potatoes growing out on the back porch or out on the balcony if you live in an apartment. That is how you get through that. And the same thing with a power outage. If there's a power outage, do you have a hot plate where you can cook a little food or boil a little water that runs on a battery pack, or you have like a Coleman stove? That's another thing. The old Coleman stoves, you can pick them up at garage sales around here for maybe $5. Having it doesn't take a lot to get those basics in place, and then you can go from there and you can upgrade and whatnot. Old Spice, have a good evening, everyone. Got to go to bed. Or hey, I appreciate you being here. You guys are always appreciated. Get a good night's sleep there. If I have to grow outside my apartment, I'd feed the neighborhood. Melissa, sometimes that's what happens. Maybe you need to just keep some lettuce growing in the windowsill above the kitchen sink. And I say that because the moisture and the humidity from the kitchen sink when you're doing your dishes and stuff is going to help that stuff grow. Dana Green would love to see and interact with Mother Refugee. I am going to try to get Mother Refugee to mod and come in here on the live streams when I come on there, so you guys can talk and maybe ask her questions on her points of view. And another thing that I wanted to mention too, this is going to sound really nerdy when I say this, but everybody should have some type of document go bag, and everybody should have kind of their legal papers in place if something does happen. I could walk out of here today, something could happen to me. And I know so many times when people have not even considered their own demise, so to speak, and something happens to them and their family is in a complete disarray because they didn't have any type of estate planning. They didn't have anything in place for their unexpected passing. And I've seen just so many people torn apart over this. Have some type of estate planning, have a plan, even if it's just some few things written down on a piece of paper and kept in a safe place. Hey, if something happens to me, you do this, this, and this. And I've been around the block enough that I have actually went to a lawyer. We've done some estate planning. We've had some paperwork and stuff made out. So if something happens to one of us, our kids aren't in that same situation. And it's something that needs to be updated too. You just can't do it once, set it and forget it, because laws change, things change, people change. They change, their assets change, income changes, things just happen in life. So it's something about every 5 or at max 10 years needs to be redone and looked over again. And I know it's going to cost a few $100s, but I'm telling you what, it's going to might save thousands of dollars in the long run to your surviving heirs. Eat like potatoes. We love potatoes. I mean, I could live on potatoes if I had to. I have always been serious about sunchokes. I have never grown a sunchoke. It's something that I have thought about. I've grown a lot of different stuff over the years, but I have never grown one. Grow and fermented last one like you didn't like it. Put the docks in a D-ring binder with all my preservation work. I like to grow dehydrated, how to can beef. Yeah, and if you have documents and you have them in some type of document bag or whatever, have that in a place where you can grab that in a hurry, because sometimes and even stuff like photocopying your IDs, you can't. Most people, I've never heard of anybody allowing you to have two driver's licenses. But if you got an old expired driver's license, keep that old expired driver's license. Throw that in your document bag. If something happens or some disaster, you lose your wallet or your purse or whatever, but you got your document go bag and you got an old expired driver's license in there, that's a start to establish what your identity is. And that's just something people discard most of the time anyway. It doesn't cost a thing. Hello from Connecticut. Hey, how you doing there? JT, how you doing? Sun chart. Sun chokes are good as long as they're pickled. Just goes to show you can pickle anything. Prepper for the ages. How you doing there? The sap of milkweed is excellent for getting rid of warts. I have heard that too, that there is some kind of active ingredient in that will take care of warts. I have heard that already. Something from back in the old timer days. My dogs have document go back. Oh yeah, and if you take your pets with you, your dog's got dog licenses. Have a copy of them and their vaccination records too. That's something that's, like I said, I started that years ago. I just started collecting this stuff. I went from a manila envelope, and then the manila envelope started getting a little tattered from going in and out of it. So I got a bank bag, the bank bag that they put change in for businesses or whatever. I got one of those bank bags, got a heavy duty zipper. That just Most banks will probably just give you one, or they got one that's a little dirty or something. They'll just give it to you. And I've been using that bank bag now, I bet you, for 20 years, putting stuff into it. And it's quick and easy to grab. It's small enough to stick into a pack or a duffel bag or something if you got to get out of Dodge quick. But I'll tell you what, um, titles to vehicles, marriage license, birth certificates, old IDs, like I said there. If you got any deeds to property, insurance policies. Oh God, what else we got in there? Vaccination records for the kids, any of the information for the kids, stuff like social security cards. Um, a couple of pay stubs doesn't help either, because pay stubs have information on it that can be valuable. And then that's another good thing. If you have a document go bag like that, that's something that you can maybe stick $100 cash in. That way, you always got a little bit of cash with that go bag if you have to grab that and take off and go. Even if the document's expired, it's a lot easier to get updated when you have an expired one. It's true. And if you don't have an expired one, make a photocopy of them. And any type of government ID. See, I've got a couple different kinds of government ID. I not only have a driver's license, but I also have a CPL, which is a concealed pistol license. Again, that has my picture on it, got my mug on it, and it's a governmental photo ID, that might come in handy, not just for carrying a sidearm. It could be for identification purposes as well. At least you have something to go by. And these are just all small things. Yeah, small bills, $100 in small bills. Nothing bigger than a 20. Basically, nothing bigger than a 20. JT, love you guys too. I appreciate you very, very much. Grandma Ginger. Grandma Ginger's farm. Yeah, just some basic things can really shore up your preparedness. But people nowadays just don't have that resiliency that the old timers had when getting into these bad situations. God bless you too, Ginger's grandma. And YouTube doesn't like you. I am getting commercials. Ooh, YouTube doesn't like you. I am getting commercials. Yeah, YouTube. That's a whole nother conversation. I know so many good preparedness channels, good guys that are out there trying to help people out and stuff, and they get nothing but problems. Nothing but they get nothing but problems from YouTube. They don't show their videos. They don't like us preparedness folks out there because we are independent, so to speak. The independent minds, independent thoughts, and there was nothing more independent than the old timers. They took care of themselves, and they did for a reason. People out in the rural areas, they learn self-sufficiency. They learn self-sufficiency because they had to, and I've said this too in different, videos talking about getting out of the city and stuff. If some massive SHTF happens, I believe that the cities are going to be the first ones that are going to get any type of supplies or help. People out in the country, we're at the end of the line. We're at the end of the line. So we need to be self-sufficient. Like I said, those trucks aren't going to roll out here into rural Michigan. They're going to roll into places like Detroit, Grand Rapids, Flint, Saginaw, Kalamazoo, Jackson. That's the places that are going to get the help first. They're not going to come out here to, rural Farmville. That's going to be down the road a long ways when they come out here. I just watched two 15-second ads. I'm sorry about that. I guess I didn't even know that they ran ads on live streams. I thought maybe they only ran ads on like the replay if you watch the replay. So I guess I learned something there about YouTube. You can never tell what they're doing. Prepping preacher, how you doing there? I know you were probably at church when I started this, but I appreciate you stopping by. It's good to always have you here. Patriot Preacher is one of my oldest subs and good friends here online. Literally the end of the line. It's true. I keep 10 ounces of silver in 1 ounce bar is cheaper than, yeah. And for us here, the old guys, when they started phasing out silver here where we were at, when they said, hey, we're going to start going with the clad coins, what is about 1965 when they started with clad, all the old guys around here saved all the old coins that were still 90% silver. And over the years in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s, there was a lot of old coinage when the old folks passed away, where the kids found, I don't want to say pails full, but like jars full of Liberty Walking $50 and Mercury dimes and stuff that the old timers saved because they knew that was silver, and they saved it, and it was just available in change. And nowadays, and I remember when I first started running a cash register, you would occasionally find a dime or a $50 or something like that in the change, and you would switch that out with a quarter or a $50 or whatever that you had in your pocket. You dropped two quarters in there and you took the $50, that was whatever, a percentage of silver. But the old timers did that too. The old timers did save silver coins. It was always something. They said, I know one old timer in particular, he said all those silver coins that he had collected over the years there out of the change, he said that was his life insurance policy for his kids. Well, guys, I appreciate each and every one of you watching this live stream here. We are getting close to the hour mark, and I know there's a lot of other content creators that like to put live streams out on Sunday, so I don't want to interfere with all that too. But I really appreciate each and every one of you guys out there. We are all one big happy family here on the YouTube preparedness world. And like I said, I consider each and every one of you guys that watch my videos as my extended family and friends. But you guys need to just do what you can to harden down your situations where you're at. Do as best you can with what you got. Don't go out and spend, thousands and thousands of dollars on stuff, but simple things, charging cords, charging packs, a little bit of cash, a document go bag, have some food around in case something happens to the supply chain or the agricultural chain. Have some medical documentation set aside. That's another thing. you know have a little notebook when you go to the doctor, you were sick with this or that, and you come back, make a note of what you had, what your symptoms were, and write down what the doctor prescribed at that particular time. That way you have that information. If you get sick again, you can relay that information back to the doctor, because the medical system, with all its computers and electronics and stuff, can be very, very fragile. And it's something that I could see having real problems if there was a massive SHTF. But anyway, I appreciate each and every one of you guys out there. I hope you guys are all doing well here this week. And hopefully I can do this again and get some other videos out for you guys here in the next week. I appreciate all you guys. You guys take care.